The Vrath dreadnought hung in orbit like a piece of death itself, 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons capable of destroying cities. It represented the pinnacle of Vrath military power. Inside its armored hull, 5,000 crew members worked with the confidence of those who controlled overwhelming force. Fleet Commander Rathzul sat in his command chair, watching Therian 4 on tactical displays. His orders were simple. The human special forces would surrender or he would reduce the planet to ash. Either outcome was acceptable. Have the humans responded to our ultimatum? He asked his communications officer. No response, Commander. Coalition forces are attempting to negotiate, but they lack authority to speak for Earth military. Rathzul smiled with satisfaction. The humans would surrender. They had no choice. Even their legendary special forces could not fight a dreadnought. This would demonstrate to the galaxy that Vrath power was supreme. On Therian 4, Minho assembled a team of 15 operators for what should have been a suicide mission. Besides his own ghost unit, he selected 10 additional operators from various special forces units, the best infiltration specialists, combat experts, and technical operators available. Let me be clear about our situation, Minho addressed the assembled soldiers. We are going to board and capture a Vrath dreadnought, 5,000 enemy crew, advanced security systems, automated defenses, heavy armor. This mission has 0% probability of success according to every tactical analysis. He paused, looking at each operator. Not one of them showed fear. They were tired, injured, running on stimulants and pure willpower, but their eyes burned with determination. However, Minho continued, tactical analysis also said we could not rescue 200,000 hostages against 50,000 troops. Analysis said we could not survive a 60-kilometer insertion drop. Analysis has been wrong about special forces operators before. Questions? A Delta operator named Wu Jin raised his hand. How do we board the dreadnought without being detected? We use their own escape pods, Sun Wu explained, pulling up schematics on a portable display. During the orbital bombardment of Therian 4, dozens of damaged escape pods were jettisoned. They are floating in orbit designated as debris. We disguise ourselves as debris, drift close to the dreadnought, and board through their recovery systems. Once inside, we move fast and violent, Daehyun added. Every second counts. We cannot give them time to coordinate a response. Jisoo checked her medical supplies one final time. If anyone gets seriously wounded, I will do my best. But understand, we probably will not all survive this. The operators nodded. They had volunteered for special forces knowing this day might come. Every one of them had written final letters to their families, stored in secure facilities on Earth. Every one of them had accepted that their service might require the ultimate sacrifice. 2 hours later, 15 human soldiers floated in space, concealed inside damaged Vrath escape pods. They wore spacesuits capable of operating in the vacuum, but even with the best equipment, this was incredibly dangerous. If the dreadnought sensors detected them, they would be vaporized by point defense weapons. But the Vrath were confident in their position. They scanned for incoming ships and missiles, not for soldiers floating in debris. The escape pods drifted closer, pulled by the dreadnought's automated recovery systems designed to retrieve survivors. Minho watched his chronometer count down. They would have one chance at this. If the recovery system detected anomalies in the pod's weight or composition, alarms would sound. If they were too slow entering the ship, security would seal the docking bay. Everything depended on perfect timing and flawless execution. The first pod locked into the recovery system. Red lights flashed as machinery began pulling it inside. Minho waited, his heart rate steady despite the danger. Years of training had taught him to control fear, to focus only on the mission. Green light. The pod was inside the docking bay. Minho explosively opened the hatch and rolled out, his weapon already tracking for targets. 2 Vrath technicians stood nearby, shocked by the sudden appearance of a human soldier. They died before they could raise an alarm. More pods arrived. Operators poured out, moving with practiced efficiency. Within 30 seconds, all 15 humans were inside the dreadnought, and the docking bay was secured. Bodies of Vrath technicians lay where they fell, killed in silence before they could alert the ship. Sunwoo, can you access their internal systems? Minho asked quietly. The communications specialist worked at a terminal, his fingers dancing across alien controls. I am in their network, but I cannot maintain stealth for long. Once they realize we are here, they will lock down the entire ship. How long do we have? Maybe 10 minutes before their security systems notice the irregularities. Then we move fast. Alpha Team, secure engineering. Bravo Team, take the bridge. Charlie Team, find their command staff, go. The operators split into 3 groups and vanished into the ship's corridors. They moved like shadows, killing sentries before alarms could sound, bypassing security systems with Sunwoo's hacked access codes. The Dreadnought was a massive vessel with thousands of corridors and compartments, but the operators had studied its layout during their approach. Every turn, every access point, every security station was memorized. Alpha Team reached engineering first. The compartment was huge, filled with massive generators and power systems. 50 Vrath engineers worked at their stations, unaware that human soldiers had infiltrated their ship. Daehyun assessed the situation quickly. We cannot take them all in close combat without alerting the entire ship. We need to lock them down. Woo Jin nodded and moved to a control panel, using access codes Sunwoo had provided. He initiated an emergency protocol that sealed the engineering bay and flooded it with knockout gas that was harmless to humans but would render Vrath unconscious within seconds. Engineers collapsed at their stations. Within 2 minutes, engineering was secured without a shot fired. Alpha Team positioned themselves at critical systems, ready to prevent any attempt to destroy the ship or detonate reactors. Bravo Team's mission was more difficult. The bridge was located deep inside the ship, protected by multiple security checkpoints and heavily armed guards. A direct assault would fail against such defenses, so they did not assault directly. Instead, they moved through maintenance tunnels, crawled through ventilation systems, and used Sunwoo's hacked access to bypass security. They got within 50 meters of the bridge before alarms finally sounded. We are detected. Sunwoo reported over the team channel. All security systems are activating. We have maybe 5 minutes before they organize a response. All teams, weapons free, Minho ordered. Time for stealth is over. Now we fight. Bravo Team stormed the final corridor leading to the bridge. Automated turrets swiveled to target them, but Sunwoo disabled them a fraction of a second before they fired. Vrath guards emerged from security stations, their weapons ready. The corridor exploded into violence. Human Special Forces operators fought with terrifying efficiency. Every movement was calculated, every shot placed with precision. They used cover expertly, advanced under fire, and eliminated targets with professional brutality. Vrath guards had superior numbers and position, but humans had superior training and determination. Yuna held one corridor alone, her rifle barking methodically. 50 Vrath soldiers tried to push through her position. She stopped them all, her accuracy and speed overwhelming their attempts to coordinate. Bodies piled in the corridor, and still she fired, protecting her team's flank. Meanwhile, Charlie Team hunted Fleet Commander Rathzul through the ship. The Vrath commander had sealed himself in a secure command center with elite guards, believing himself safe. But Charlie Team breached the armored doors using explosives, stormed the compartment, and eliminated the guards in seconds. Rathzul found himself facing Minho across the ruined command center. The Vrath commander raised his weapon, but Minho was faster. A single shot disarmed him, and Minho closed the distance with shocking speed. They fought hand to hand, but it was no contest. Years of training made Minho a weapon in human form. He subdued Rathzul in seconds. "Your ship is ours," Minho said coldly in perfect Vrath language. "Order your crew to stand down, or we will take the bridge by force and they will die." Rathzul stared in disbelief. "You boarded my dreadnought? With how many soldiers?" 15. The number shocked Rathzul into silence. 15 soldiers had infiltrated and captured a vessel crewed by 5,000. It should have been impossible. It was impossible. Yet it had happened. On the coalition cruiser, Jinwoo watched in stunned silence as the dreadnought's weapons powered down and its shields deactivated. A transmission came from the ship on all frequencies. Special forces had captured the vessel intact. "Impossible," Jinwoo whispered, for what felt like the 100th time. This cannot be real, but it was real. Within 6 hours of boarding, 15 human operators had secured the entire dreadnought. They had killed or captured key personnel, disabled security systems, and seized control of critical infrastructure. The remaining crew, leaderless and terrified, surrendered without further resistance. News of the dreadnought's capture spread across the galaxy within hours. The Vrath Empire, which had conquered 47 star systems through force and intimidation, sued for peace within 20. The insertion of 50 additional operators happened at 200 hours under cover of darkness. Unlike Ghost Unit's high-altitude drop, these soldiers came in hard and fast using stealth drop pods that scattered them across the city in seconds. Each pod contained specialized teams from different Special Forces units, Rangers, Delta operators, and others whose unit names remained classified even to Coalition observers. Minho stood on a rooftop, watching the pod streak across the sky like falling stars. His team had spent 3 days gathering intelligence, preparing the battlefield, and spreading confusion among Vrath forces. Now it was time to finish the mission. All teams, this is Ghost Lead, Minho transmitted on the secure channel. Welcome to Therion 4. You have your assignments. Operation begins in 58 minutes. Synchronize your chronometers and move to insertion points. 50 voices confirmed their orders. The entire operation had been planned down to the second. 12 separate target locations would be hit simultaneously, overwhelming Vrath ability to respond. Every piece of intelligence Ghost Unit had gathered over the past 72 hours would now be used to devastating effect. On the Coalition cruiser, Jinwoo watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Your military doctrine requires numerical advantage of 100 to 1. These operators are deploying at odds of 1,000 to 1. Coalition doctrine is designed for coalition species, Yeri replied calmly. Human special forces operate under different rules. They do not need numerical superiority. They need information, training, and the will to win. Ghost Unit provided the information. Training speaks for itself. And as for will, watch and learn. At exactly 0300 hours, the operation began. Ghost Unit led the assault on the primary detention facility, the largest of 12 locations holding civilians. The facility was heavily guarded with 300 Vrath soldiers, automated defenses, and multiple security layers. Coalition analysts had estimated it would take a battalion 3 weeks to capture it. Ghost Unit had 4 minutes to secure it before Vrath reinforcements could respond. Minho moved first, his team following in perfect coordination. They had practiced this assault 100 times in virtual simulations, memorizing every corridor, every guard position, every security measure. Now they executed with mechanical precision. Sunwoo disabled the facility's communication systems and took control of automated defenses with pre-planted backdoors. Security cameras went dark. Automated turrets turned against Vrath guards. Blast doors sealed, trapping defenders in kill zones. Yuna provided overwatch from an adjacent building, her rifle eliminating sentries and officers with surgical precision. She fired 47 shots in 6 minutes, each one hitting exactly where she intended. Guards fell before they could raise alarms. Officers died before they could issue orders. Daehyun breached the main entrance using precisely placed explosives that destroyed security barriers without harming the structure. The blast was calculated to cause maximum confusion and minimum collateral damage. As smoke filled the entrance, Ghost Unit poured through like water through a broken dam. Jisoo moved with the team, but her focus was different. While the others eliminated threats, she directed civilians to safety, her medical training allowing her to quickly assess who needed immediate help. She moved through chaos with calm efficiency, her presence reassuring terrified prisoners. Minho was everywhere at once, directing his team, eliminating threats, securing objectives. He moved through the facility like a force of nature, unstoppable and relentless. Vrath guards who tried to resist found themselves facing a soldier who had trained for years to fight against impossible odds. Those who surrendered were secured and moved aside. Those who fought were neutralized with brutal efficiency. 4 minutes, and 12 seconds after the assault began, the detention facility was secure. 300 Vrath guards had been killed, captured, or forced to surrender. 20,000 civilians were free and being evacuated to secure locations. Ghost Unit had suffered 0 casualties, though Daehyun had taken a graze wound to his shoulder that Jisoo treated while still moving. Across the city, similar scenes played out at 11 other locations. Special Forces operators moved with the same precision and overwhelming violence. Each team had their own specialty, their own tactics, but all shared the same ruthless efficiency. Ranger teams assaulted fortified positions with speed and aggression that seemed suicidal, but proved devastatingly effective. They cleared buildings floor by floor, room by room, eliminating resistance faster than defenders could coordinate responses. Delta operators conducted surgical strikes against Wrath command centers. They infiltrated facilities that should have been impenetrable, eliminated high-value targets, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Each strike was planned to cause maximum disruption to enemy command structure. Other teams whose names and specialties remained classified executed their own missions with the same professional brutality. They were all different units with different training, but they shared one common trait. They were humanity's best warriors, trained to do the impossible. Coalition observers watched in stunned silence as their tactical displays updated in real time. Wrath positions fell one after another, faster than any computer simulation had predicted. Casualty reports showed Wrath forces suffering catastrophic losses while Special Forces operators suffered minimal damage. "This is not warfare," one alien observer whispered. "This is something else entirely." Jinwoo agreed silently. He had studied military history from dozens of species, but nothing compared to what he was witnessing. Human special forces did not fight like armies. They fought like natural disasters, unpredictable, unstoppable, and absolutely devastating. Commander Vectar's command center was in chaos. Reports flooded in from all sectors, facilities falling, communications disrupted, troops surrendering en masse. His 50,000-strong occupation force was collapsing under assault from 55 human operators. "How is this possible?" he roared at his officers. "We have superior numbers, superior technology, superior position." "Sir, human forces are not fighting conventionally," his tactical officer explained, his voice shaking. "They are hitting us simultaneously at multiple points. Our troops cannot coordinate responses because communications are compromised. Our automated defenses have turned against us. Our supply lines are cut. And the humans, they move faster than should be possible. They anticipate our responses before we make them." Vectar pulled up tactical displays showing the battle. Each human operator appeared as a red dot on his screen, surrounded by areas marked as cleared or captured. The red dots moved with terrifying speed and precision, flowing through his defenses like blood through a wounded body. "Order all troops to converge on detention facilities," Vectar commanded. "We will concentrate our forces and crush them with overwhelming numbers." "Sir, they have already captured all detention facilities. They completed objectives that should have taken weeks in less than 6 hours." 6 hours. Vectar could not believe it. His entire operation had been unraveled in 6 hours by fewer than 60 human soldiers. "Then we will execute the hostages," Vectar said coldly. "If we cannot hold them, we will ensure humans gain nothing from this operation." But when his officers tried to transmit that order, they found communications completely blocked. Sunwoo had taken total control of the Wrath network, intercepting every transmission, disrupting every order. The command to execute hostages never reached Wrath troops on the ground. Instead, those troops were receiving different messages claiming their generals had ordered retreat, that reinforcements were not coming, that the mission was lost. Sunwoo's psychological operations were tearing apart Wrath command structure from within. Panic spread through Wrath forces. Units that should have been fighting were instead retreating. Officers who should have been coordinating defenses were arguing with each other about conflicting orders. The entire occupation force was imploding. By hour 8, 96% of all hostages had been rescued and evacuated to secure areas. Wrath casualties exceeded 15,000 killed or captured. Organized resistance had effectively ceased. Special Forces operators began transitioning from assault operations to security operations, establishing perimeters and preparing for coalition relief forces. Minho gathered his team on a rooftop overlooking the city. They were exhausted, covered in dust and minor wounds, but alive and victorious. Below them, freed civilians celebrated in the streets while coalition peacekeeping forces began landing to restore order. "Mission complete," Minho transmitted to Coalition Command. "All primary objectives secured, 96% hostage survival rate. Wrath occupation force neutralized, We are ready for extraction. On the Coalition cruiser, Jinwoo listened to the report in silence. Around him, alien officers were frantically updating their military doctrines, writing new sections about human special forces capabilities. What they had witnessed would change galactic warfare forever. 96% survival rate, Jinwoo whispered, against 50,000 enemy troops in 8 hours, with fewer than 60 operators. Yeri stood beside him, her expression proud but not surprised. Now you understand, Captain Park. This is why the galaxy fears Earth's military, and this is why Earth's military fears special forces operators. 72 hours without rest would destroy most soldiers. For Ghost Unit, it was simply another mission parameter. Minho crouched on a rooftop, watching the sun rise over Therion 4 for the 3rd time since insertion. His body ached, his eyes burned from lack of sleep, but his mind remained sharp. Years of training had taught him to function beyond normal human limits. His earpiece crackled softly. This is Yuna. I have a shot opportunity. Target is General Thakvar, commander of Northern Occupation Zone. Range is 3.2 kilometers. Wind speed variable. Dust storm approaching. Permission to engage. Minho considered the question carefully. Taking out a general would disrupt Vrath command structure, but it would also alert them that something more than random attacks was happening. Still, the opportunity was too valuable to ignore. Take the shot, he ordered. 3 kilometers away, Yuna lay prone on another rooftop. Her rifle was positioned perfectly, every variable calculated in her mind. Wind speed, air pressure, target movement, even the rotation of the planet, all of these factors affected her shot. Most snipers would call this impossible. The dust storm alone made visual targeting nearly useless. But Yuna had trained for this. She controlled her breathing, slowed her heartbeat, and became completely still. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger. She did not think about the difficulty. She did not worry about failure. She simply waited for the perfect moment. General Thakvar stepped out of his command vehicle, surrounded by guards. He was giving orders to his officers, confident in his security. The dust storm was approaching, reducing visibility significantly. No sniper could possibly make this shot. Yuna exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The bullet traveled through the air for nearly 4 seconds. It passed through gaps in the dust storm, adjusted its trajectory slightly due to wind resistance, and struck General Thakvar precisely in the center of his chest. The general collapsed instantly, killed before he even heard the shot. His guards reacted with panic, raising their weapons and searching for threats. But Yuna was already moving, her position abandoned, her rifle disassembled and packed. By the time Vrath forces reached her previous location, she had disappeared into the city. On the Coalition cruiser, Jinwoo watched the aftermath through surveillance satellites. She made that shot? Through a dust storm? At that distance? Coalition snipers average 2 shots per engagement, Hieri explained. Special Forces snipers like Yuna regularly exceed 50. She has been taking precision shots for 3 days straight, removing key targets without being detected. This was just her most impressive shot yet. The death of General Thakvar sent shockwaves through the Vrath command structure. Within hours, accusations began flying. Some officers believed it was an assassination by rival commanders. Others thought it was local resistance. No one suspected that a single human sniper had made an impossible shot from across the city. Daehyun used this confusion to his advantage. He had spent the past 3 days mapping every Vrath ammunition depot and equipment storage facility. Now he moved through the city like a ghost, planting small devices that would create very specific malfunctions. At a Vrath armory, he accessed the ammunition storage system. He did not sabotage it in an obvious way. Instead, he adjusted temperature control so that ammunition would degrade slowly over time. To the Vrath, it would look like normal equipment failure, not enemy action. At a vehicle depot, he contaminated fuel supplies with a chemical compound that would cause engines to fail after several hours of operation. Again, it would appear to be a maintenance problem rather than sabotage. At a communications relay, he installed a tiny device that would occasionally introduce static into Vrath transmissions. Not enough to be obvious, but enough to make officers doubt what they were hearing. Each action was small, almost unnoticeable, but combined together they created an atmosphere of doubt and suspicion within the Vrath forces. Equipment was failing, communications were unreliable, security was compromised, and no one could explain why. Meanwhile, Jisoo continued her work among the civilian population. She moved through refugee camps disguised as a local doctor, treating injuries and illnesses. But her real mission was gathering intelligence and building trust. The guards change. Shifts every 8 hours, one civilian told her quietly while she bandaged his injured hand. They are most relaxed during the evening shift. That is when they drink and ignore their duties. The detention center on 3rd Street has weak security on the east side, another whispered. They have not repaired the sensor system since it was damaged in the initial invasion. Jisoo memorized every detail. Each piece of information was transmitted to Sunwoo, who compiled it into a comprehensive map of the entire occupation. Guard rotations, security weaknesses, civilian locations, all of it documented and analyzed. But Jisoo did more than just gather information. She also planted seeds of resistance. She taught civilians how to hide supplies, how to move without being detected, how to communicate secretly. She did not ask them to fight. She simply gave them tools to survive. One elderly woman gripped Jisoo's hand before she left. "You are not like the others. You are military, yes? You have come to save us?" Jisoo smiled gently. "Help is coming. Until then, stay strong and stay safe." Sunwoo sat in a hidden room, surrounded by computers and communication equipment. He had been working for 72 hours straight, surviving on stimulants and sheer willpower. His fingers moved across keyboards with practiced precision as he mapped the entire Vrath communication network. He did not hack their systems yet. That would alert them to his presence. Instead, he simply listened. Every transmission, every order, every conversation, all of it was recorded and analyzed. He learned how they thought, how they communicated, how they made decisions. But he also prepared for the next phase. He created backdoors into their systems, invisible access points that would allow him to take control when the time came. He identified key communication nodes and planted virtual traps that could disable their entire network with a single command. "Their security is actually impressive," he muttered to himself while typing. "But they are too confident. They never considered someone might infiltrate their network this deeply." He paused to take another stimulant pill and rub his burning eyes. Normal soldiers could not function at this level for so long. But Sunwoo had trained for years to push beyond normal human limits. His body was exhausted, but his mind remained focused on the mission. On the 3rd day, Minho ordered his team to implement a special operation. They would capture a Vrath command officer and extract information through what humans called psychological operations. The target was Commander Krell, second in command of the occupation forces. He was known for being cautious and intelligent, always traveling with heavy security. But Ghost Unit had identified a vulnerability. Krell regularly inspected detention centers alone, trusting his guards to secure the perimeter. Minho positioned his team carefully. Yuna provided overwatch from a distant building. Daehyun disabled security systems along the extraction route. Jisoo prepared a secure location for interrogation. Sunwoo monitored all Vrath communications to ensure no interference. When Krell entered the detention center, Minho moved. He bypassed 3 security checkpoints without being seen, climbed through maintenance tunnels, and positioned himself directly above Krell's location. Then he waited. Krell finished his inspection and walked toward his transport vehicle. In that moment, when he was between buildings and his guard's line of sight was blocked, Minho dropped from above. The attack was silent and precise. Krell was unconscious and restrained before he could even reach for his weapon. Daehyun appeared from the shadows, helping Minho carry the unconscious officer. They moved through pre-planned routes, avoiding patrols and cameras. Within 15 minutes, Krell was secured in a hidden location, and Ghost Unit had vanished once again. When Krell woke up, he found himself in a dark room, restrained but uninjured. A voice spoke from the shadows in perfect Vrath language. "Commander Krell, I need information. You will provide it voluntarily, or I will take it by force. The choice is yours. Krell's training told him to resist. He had been prepared for torture, for threats, for traditional interrogation. But what happened next was something he had never experienced. The humans did not hurt him. Instead, they played sounds, recordings, of his own troops talking about their fears, their doubts, their concerns about the mission. They showed him evidence of equipment failures, failed communications, and mysterious disappearances. They made him believe his own forces were falling apart. Your generals are blaming each other for the failures, Minho said calmly. General Thakvar is dead, killed by one of your own officers. Your troops are deserting. Your equipment is failing. Your mission is collapsing. None of this was entirely true, but it was close enough to reality that Krell could not distinguish fact from fiction. The psychological pressure was immense. After 6 hours of this treatment, Krell began talking. He revealed troop positions, security codes, command structures, everything Ghost Unit needed. When the interrogation was complete, Minho gave Krell water and food. You will be released unharmed. Tell your superiors that humans are coming. Tell them to surrender or face the consequences. Krell was left on a street corner, confused and terrified. The briefing room at Fort Bragg was quiet except for the hum of holographic displays. Major Minho Kang stood before his team, his face calm and focused. He had led Ghost Unit for 7 years, and each member of his team was handpicked from thousands of candidates. They were the best of the best, and today they would prove it. Mission parameters are straightforward, Minho began, his voice steady. Therion 4 has been occupied by Vrath forces for 6 days. 200,000 civilians are being held in detention centers across the planet. Vrath troop strength is estimated at 50,000, with full orbital support and advanced defensive positions. Lieutenant Yuna Kim, the team's sniper, raised an eyebrow. Just the 5 of us, sir? Just the 5 of us, Minho confirmed. Our insertion window is 36 hours from now. We have 48 hours to complete the mission objectives, gather intelligence, locate all hostages, and prepare for extraction. Coalition forces will handle the heavy lifting once we provide them with targeting data. Sergeant Dae-Hyun Lee, a stocky man with scarred knuckles, grinned. Sounds like a vacation compared to our last job. Corporal Jisoo Han, the team medic, was reviewing medical supplies on her tablet. What about local conditions? Atmosphere, gravity, potential diseases? Standard oxygen-nitrogen mix. Gravity is 0.9 of Earth normal, no biological threats to humans, Minho answered. We will be operating in an urban environment with civilian presence throughout. Rules of engagement are strict, no civilian casualties. Specialist Sunwoo Baek, their communications expert, looked up from his computer. I have access to Vrath communication protocols and encryption keys, courtesy of Coalition intelligence. I can monitor their networks, but actively hacking them might alert them to our presence. Save the hacking for when we need it, Minho said. This operation succeeds through stealth and precision. We go in quiet, we gather information, and we set up the board for a successful rescue. Questions? None of his team spoke. They had worked together for years, operating in situations that would break normal soldiers. Each of them had volunteered for special forces knowing the cost. The training had been brutal. Years of their lives spent learning to fight, survive, and operate in any environment. But they had succeeded where thousands of others had failed. Meanwhile, on Nexus 7, Captain Jinwoo Park was granted permission to observe Ghost Unit's training facility through live video feeds. What he saw disturbed him deeply. The facility looked more like a torture chamber than a training ground. Humans were being subjected to extreme cold, heat, sleep deprivation, and physical exhaustion that would kill most species. One exercise involved soldiers swimming through freezing water while carrying heavy equipment. Another required them to navigate obstacle courses while being shot at, with non-lethal rounds that still left bruises and broken bones. This is their routine training? Jinwoo asked the human officer accompanying him on the virtual tour. This is a light day, Captain, the officer replied casually. Special Forces candidates learn to function under conditions that would incapacitate regular troops. Pain, exhaustion, fear, these become background noise. The mind stays sharp even when the body is breaking down. Jinwoo watched as a trainee fell from a climbing wall, breaking his leg in the process. Medical staff rushed forward, but the trainee waved them off and continued the exercise using only his arms. "Why do you train like this?" "Because our missions require it," the officer explained. "When Ghost Unit goes into Therion 4, they will face odds that should be impossible. They might go days without sleep. They might get injured. They might have to carry wounded civilians through hostile territory. Normal training produces normal soldiers. This training produces operators who can do the impossible." Back at Fort Bragg, Ghost Unit prepared their equipment. Each operator carried weapons and gear customized to their role. Yuna's rifle was a marvel of engineering, capable of hitting targets at distances that should be impossible. Daehyun's demolitions kit contained enough explosives to level a building, all compressed into a pack smaller than a briefcase. Jisu's medical supplies could treat anything from a gunshot wound to biological contamination. Sunwoo's communication equipment could hack into almost any network in the galaxy. And Minho carried something more important than any weapon: the complete trust of his team. 18 hours later, Ghost Unit boarded a stealth transport ship. The Coalition had agreed to provide transportation to Therion 4's orbit, but the insertion would be entirely Earth's responsibility. Coalition observers, including Captain Jinwoo, monitored from a safe distance aboard a nearby cruiser. "Beginning final approach to Therion 4, the pilot announced. "Insertion point is ready." "Sir, I have to say this altitude is insane. Are you sure about this?" Minho checked his equipment one final time. "We're sure." "Begin countdown." The transport climbed to an altitude of 60 kilometers above Therion 4's surface. At this height, the atmosphere was thin enough that it was essentially space. The cargo bay doors opened, and the 5 operators stood at the edge looking down at the planet below. On the Coalition cruiser, Jinwoo watched in horror. "They cannot possibly survive this. 60 kilometers? Even with protective suits, the impact will kill them." Commander Hyerinam stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "Watch and learn, Captain Park." Minho gave the signal. Without hesitation, all 5 operators stepped out of the transport and began falling toward the planet. They wore specialized suits designed to protect them during high-altitude insertions, but to any observer it looked like suicide. The operators fell in formation, controlling their descent with practiced precision. Air resistance built up as they entered thicker atmosphere, heating their suits to dangerous temperatures. G-forces that would render most beings unconscious were simply part of the experience for Ghost Unit. At 20 kilometers altitude, their suits deployed drag systems, slowing their descent to survivable speeds. At 5 kilometers, they activated their final descent. Systems, advanced parachutes that could be steered with incredible accuracy. The entire Coalition bridge crew watched in stunned silence as all 5 operators landed safely in different locations across the city, each within 50 meters of their intended landing zones. The entire descent had taken less than 15 minutes. "Impossible," Jinwoo whispered. "At those speeds, at those temperatures, with those G-forces, Special Forces operators train for years to handle exactly this type of insertion," Harry explained. "Regular soldiers could not survive it. But Ghost Unit is not regular soldiers." On the ground, Minho quickly stripped off his insertion suit and concealed it. He wore civilian clothing underneath, allowing him to blend into the urban environment. His weapons and gear were hidden in a pack that looked ordinary to casual inspection. Within minutes of landing, he had disappeared into the city streets. Across the city, his team did the same. Years of training had taught them to become invisible in any environment. They could pass for locals, for refugees, for anyone except what they truly were: highly trained killers with a mission. Sunwoo activated his communication equipment and established a secure network connecting all 5 operators. "Comms check. Everyone solid?" 4 voices confirmed their status. All operators were in position and ready to begin reconnaissance. "Ghost Unit is active," Minho reported to Coalition Command. "Going dark for 72 hours. Our next communication will be mission completion or emergency extraction request." With that, the communication went silent. On the Coalition cruiser, Jinwoo stared at the tracking display. 5 tiny signals spread across a city occupied by 50,000 enemy troops. It seemed hopeless, but then those signals began to move. Slowly, carefully, Ghost Unit started their work. The first Wrath patrol to disappear happened 6 hours after insertion. A 10-soldier unit simply vanished during a routine sweep of a residential district. Their equipment was found neatly stacked in an alley. The soldiers themselves were discovered unconscious but alive, stripped of their weapons and armor, bound with their own equipment straps. Commander Vektar reviewed the report with growing irritation. How does an entire patrol get ambushed without sending a distress call? His officers had no answer. The Vrath troops had experienced warriors. They carried advanced sensors and communication equipment. Yet somehow something had taken them down without triggering any alarms. Over the next 12 hours, 3 more patrols disappeared under similar circumstances. No shots fired, no distress calls. Just soldiers found unconscious, terrified, unable to explain what had happened to them. One soldier, after being revived, could only repeat one phrase: ghosts. They moved like ghosts. Vektar increased security protocols and ordered his troops to patrol in larger groups, but this only made them easier targets for Ghost Unit's true mission: intelligence gathering. While the Vrath focused on their missing patrols, Yuna had positioned herself in an abandoned building with a clear view of 3 detention centers. Her rifle scope was recording guard rotations, security measures, and civilian conditions. She had been motionless for 16 hours, barely breathing, her body trained to remain combat effective despite the discomfort. Daehyun had infiltrated the Vrath logistics network, identifying ammunition depots, fuel storage, and equipment warehouses. He moved through the city like a shadow. The War Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed another human military victory. Commander Vektar of the Vrath Empire watched the footage with growing unease. His clawed hand trembled slightly as he paused the recording at a particular frame. It showed a human soldier, injured and bleeding, still fighting with 3 broken ribs and a shattered arm. The human had won that engagement. "This is madness," Vektar muttered to his officers. "Any rational being would surrender or die from such injuries. These humans simply refused to stop." His second-in-command, a battle-hardened warrior named Krell, nodded in agreement. "We have conquered 47 star systems in 3 months, Commander. Our forces are unstoppable. Yet I must advise we continue avoiding human territories entirely." The other officers murmured their agreement. The Vrath Empire had built its reputation on overwhelming force and superior technology. Their weapons could melt through standard battle armor in seconds. Their ships could destroy entire fleets. But humanity had earned something far more valuable than technological superiority. They had earned fear. Across the galaxy on the border station Nexus 7, Captain Jinwoo Park reviewed the same reports. As a coalition military observer, his job was to monitor threats and assess military capabilities. He had spent years studying different species and their fighting styles. Nothing compared to what he had learned about humans in the past 6 months. Jinwoo pulled up files on his terminal. Video after video showed human soldiers doing the impossible. One recording showed a human unit trapped behind enemy lines for 18 days without supplies. They survived by eating local vegetation that was technically poisonous to their biology. When rescued, they were still combat effective. Another file documented a human who continued fighting for 7 minutes after receiving wounds that should have killed him instantly. He saved his entire squad before collapsing. "They are built differently," Jinwoo said to himself in his native Korean before switching back to Galactic Common. His colleague, an insectoid being named Tixaval, chittered nervously beside him. "Captain Park, I have reviewed human military doctrine as you requested," Tixaval said, his translator rendering his clicks into speech. "I do not understand their training methods. They deliberately expose themselves to pain, exhaustion, and psychological stress. This should break their minds, yet it makes them stronger." Jinwoo smiled slightly. "Humans call it adaptation. Their bodies respond to stress by becoming more resilient. Their minds too." Meanwhile, in the Coalition Council chambers, a heated debate was taking place. The Vrath Empire had just attacked a core world called Therion 4. Over 200,000 civilians were trapped on the surface. Coalition military analysts estimated it would take 6 months and cost hundreds of thousands of lives to retake the planet using conventional forces. Commander Hyeri Nam stood before the council, representing Earth's interests. She was a diplomatic liaison, but her military background was evident in her posture and bearing. The council members representing dozens of species looked at her with a mixture of hope and concern. "Ambassador Choi," spoke the council head, a gaseous being contained in a crystalline shell. The Coalition formally requests Earth's military assistance. However, we must know what we are asking for. Your species' soldiers frighten even our most hardened warriors. Ambassador Taeyang Choi rose from his seat. He was an older human, his hair gray but his eyes sharp with intelligence. He had served as Earth's senior representative for 15 years and had carefully managed humanity's reputation during that time. Council members, I appreciate your concern, Taeyang began, his voice calm and measured. What you have seen of Earth's military represents approximately 10% of our actual combat capability. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several council members activated their translators simultaneously, certain they had misheard. 10%? The council head repeated. Explain, Ambassador. Taeyang touched his wrist device and a new holographic display appeared. It showed organizational charts of Earth's military structure. What you have encountered are our regular military forces. Marines, Army, Navy, and Air Force personnel. These men and women undergo standard military training lasting between 3 to 12 months, depending on their specialization. He paused, letting that information settle. However, Earth maintains other units. We call them Special Forces. Here he watched the council members carefully. Some leaned forward with interest. Others pulled back, their alien features expressing various forms of concern. She had seen footage of Special Forces training. Even as a military officer, it had disturbed her. Special Forces are human soldiers who undergo additional training lasting anywhere from 5 to 10 years, Taeyang continued. They are selected from the best of our regular military. Only a tiny fraction succeed in this training. Those who do become something beyond normal soldiers. Beyond? Asked a reptilian council member. What does that mean? It means they are trained to operate alone or in very small groups behind enemy lines for extended periods, Taeyang explained. They mastered dozens of combat techniques, multiple languages, advanced technology, survival skills, and psychological operations. While a regular human soldier is formidable, a Special Forces operator is an entirely different category of warrior. Jinwoo, watching the council session via live feed, felt his pulse quicken. He had heard rumors about human Special Forces but had never seen them in action. The classified sections of human military files were locked even to Coalition observers. Now he understood why. Are you suggesting we deploy these Special Forces to Therion 4? The council head asked. I am suggesting, Taeyang replied carefully, that if you want those civilians rescued and the Vrath removed from that world, Special Forces are your only practical option. A conventional assault would take months and cost countless lives. A Special Forces operation could resolve the situation much faster with minimal casualties. How many would you send? Asked another council member. Surely thousands. Taeyang smiled, and there was something predatory in that expression. We would send 5. The council chamber exploded with objections and disbelief. 5 soldiers? Against 50,000 Vrath troops with orbital support? It was insanity. Yeri stepped forward to support the ambassador. Council members, please. Trust Earth on this matter. Our Special Forces do not fight like conventional armies. They are force multipliers. Each operator is worth a battalion of regular troops. The council head raised an appendage for silence. This is highly irregular. Ambassador Choi, you are asking us to trust in something we cannot understand? Yes, Taeyang agreed simply. I am asking for trust. The Vrath fear our regular military. They have no concept of what our Special Forces can do, because we have never deployed them in Coalition space. If you want to save those civilians, give us 48 hours. If we cannot resolve the situation in that time, you can proceed with your conventional assault plans. The council deliberated for 20 minutes before reaching a decision. They would approve Earth's plan, but with Coalition observers monitoring every aspect of the operation. If anything went wrong, Earth would bear full responsibility. Taeyang bowed formally to the council and left the chamber. Once outside, Hyeri caught up with him in the corridor. Sir, are you certain about this? She asked in Korean. 48 hours seems impossible even for our best. Taeyang's expression remained confident. I am certain, Commander Nam. I know exactly which unit to call. He activated his secure communication device and input a code that connected directly to Earth's Special Operations Command. When the connection established, he spoke 4 simple words. Send the Ghost Unit. Back on Nexus 7, Jinwoo received notification that a human Special Forces team was being deployed. He pulled up what little information was available. Ghost Unit 5 operators, mission details classified, estimated arrival at Therion 4 in 36 hours. He looked at Tixval, who was monitoring Vrath communications from the occupied world. "My friend, I think we are about to witness something extraordinary." Tixval's antennae twitched nervously. "Or something terrifying, Captain." "Perhaps both." On Therion 4, Vrath Commander Vektar received intelligence that humans were sending troops. He laughed at the report. 5 soldiers? Against his entire occupation force? The humans must be desperate or foolish. He ordered his troops to remain alert but felt no real concern. He would learn very soon that his confidence was misplaced. The galaxy feared Earth's military for good reason, but they were about to discover that Earth's military also feared something. They feared the kind of humans who volunteered to become Special Forces operators. They feared the men and women who trained until they became living weapons. They feared Ghost Unit, and in 48 hours so would the Vrath Empire.